Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar on building WhatsApp, Viber and SMS chatbots. In case if you cannot hear me or the sound doesn't come out quite right, it is recommended that you should be using the computer audio instead of dialing with your phone. And if that doesn't help, just go and restart the GoToWebinar viewer and that should do the trick. In case there's any sort of problems or you cannot finish the whole session in one go, do not worry, we will record this whole thing and we will share a link to the YouTube video with you after this session. My name is Sebastian Vitalec and I'm a senior developer advocate at Progress, and today I will take you through a bunch of things. I would like to start with an intro to chatbots. We will also review the text-based chatbots and possibilities and limitations. Then I will take you through a very quick demo of building a chatbot from scratch. Then I'll pass on the mic to my colleague Alex Hitrov, who will talk to you about best practices for mobile chatbots. Then Ilian will take over and take you through NativeChat pilot program. And then finally, Ilian will be answering all questions and possibly we'll have a discussion. And depending on how many questions you have, it might take a couple of minutes or we could spend even half an hour. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so let me move into the intro to chatbots, and there are three things that you should know about chatbots. Let's start with the important question of why chatbots. In my opinion, the communication of how we communicate between each other has changed. So in the past, we used to talk to each other using our voices. We would meet or we would call each other a lot more. But this trend has changed, and more people tend to prefer text-based communication with apps like WhatsApp or Viber or even straight SMS text. And because of that and how our communication channels have changed, companies should also evolve. And the next stage of evolution, which is basically introducing a chatbot to your company to allow the customers to communicate with you in a more automated fashion. And chatbots obviously come with their own benefits, like you get no queues because they can work 24/7 and they can handle multiple users at the same time. Chatbots also greatly increase the speed of communication. They're great at handling repetitive tasks and they have direct access to the API, so they can actually query your backend and provide an answer to the user almost immediately. And to make it better, they can also display available options to the user so that the user can very quickly choose which of the options works for them the best. And then as a result, you get a ton of happy users. And another reason why you might want to go for a mobile-based chatbot is their excellent open and response rate. And according to Gartner, we are looking at 98 and 45% respectively for the open and response rate, which is pretty impressive. Next, let's talk about the two different types of conversations that your chatbot could have. The first one is of type question and answer. So this is a type of conversation where a user can ask a question and a chatbot can answer with a very straightforward answer. So the relation is always like one-to-one. One question, one answer. There is no follow-up to that conversation. Each of those is treated as like a one-step thing. The other type of conversation is a guided task or more like a step-by-step conversation. And this is where chatbot takes the user on a step-by-step journey and asks them all the required questions in order to complete this whole conversation. So this could be pretty much anything like booking a meeting where you need to provide your email address and also the date and time when you want to meet, and also provide with some notes. And then at the end, the chatbot will go on and actually make the booking. The next item is, how do chatbots even understand us? How do they know how to respond to each expression and when to just give you a quick answer to your question, or when should they take you through a whole step-by-step conversation? So chatbots use what we call natural language processing, which is the ability of a computer program to understand human language as it is spoken. So let me explain how this works. So in the first step, we are training our chatbot with a various set of expressions. So we're feeding the chatbot with various expressions, and that constructs an NLP model. And while we're feeding the chatbot with various expressions that it should understand, it has to also go through a specific process. So, for example, if there's an expression like, can I work from home? The chatbot will go and then split each of the words into individual tokens, just like this one. and that goes into our NLP model. Next, we're looking at highlights. So if we have multiple ways of asking the same question, which then leads to the same answer, what the chatbot can do is look at the tokens that are in common between the two. So like in this case, whenever we see work from home, then the chatbot can actually give more value to these tokens. So whenever it matches to those, it can be more sure that this is the right response. And then those highlights go into our NLP model. As the next thing, we will be looking at collisions. So what chatbot will do is also look at other Q&As and then try to look for tokens that are shared between different questions. So in this case, can I, and even the question marks are marked as collisions, because now if I ever match can or I, then automatically I can assume that they're sort of important, that we did match those, but they're not as important as matching to work or from or home. And then those collisions also go into the NLP model. And with these 3 steps, we have something that the chatbot can already use. If the user says something like, can I work from home? This expression goes into the NLP model and we get response, and the chatbot knows what to respond with and says, yes, all our employees can work from home. And this is how, in a nutshell, NLP works. And I'll share a link to some articles that go in a lot more depth in terms of how the whole process works and provide more examples, but we'll do that later. Let's talk about the text-based chatbots for SMS, WhatsApp, and Viber. So what are the key differences between web and mobile chatbots? Well, one of the first things is the platform where they exist. So the web-based chatbots, well, they exist on your own personal website, while the mobile ones, they exist within the existing apps within their specific platforms. In order for the user to actually use your channel via WhatsApp, they'll be using an app that they already have on their phone or tablet. And all you have to do is just create a number and then attach your chatbot in there. Another big difference is around the communication or the UI in general. A web chatbot will be using the conversation UIs. And whenever there is an option for the user to choose, it can display buttons like card or card, it can display carousels, or it can display list pickers or date pickers, all sort of things. While for mobile-based chatbots, it's mostly plain text. Even the options that are available, they will not be presented to the user as a bunch of buttons, but we have to just kind of say like, hey, there is a card and a cash, which one you want to use, and the user has to type that specific option. One other big difference between the two is their online-offline support. In web chatbots, usually you don't get much of a fallback option. If you lose the internet connection and you provide some input, then the chatbot will not be able to actually communicate that into the server to give you an answer. While with mobile-based chatbots, they have the fallback built in out of the box. For example, if you're in underground and you suddenly lost connection when you said that you want a taxi from home, what will happen is your mobile device will keep trying to send that message to the server, and eventually 4 minutes later when it arrives, the chat will receive it and then it will be able to respond. And even if you lose the connection before you get the response from the chatbot, this is again not much of a problem because SMS will automatically get delivered as soon as you come back online. So now let's have a look at what is possible to send with a mobile chatbot. So obviously we can send text or pretty much any text including emoji into the chatbot. We can even provide date and time in human spoken form, which is absolutely great because I can say I want a taxi next Friday at 3 p.m. and the chatbot will be able to figure out what date is it that I am looking for and also extract the time from that. We can also provide our current location to the chatbot. So if you provide that location, then the chatbot can take an extra step to extract the address and proceed with the booking. We can send files and images to the chatbot, and the chatbot could even go through a validation step. As a response, the chatbots can respond with text. And that's basically most of the communication that you'll be receiving as a user from that chatbot. The chatbot can also send you images and links to files. And obviously, you shouldn't be sending actual files to the user because if there's something that is 20 megabytes, then it should be up to the user when they want to download the file or if they want to download that file at all. Now let's cover the mobile chatbot limitations. So when we work with chatbots with like Viber or with SMS or WhatsApp, we have no HTML or CSS or JavaScript in there whatsoever. And as a result, that means that we have no or very limited conversational UI, which then leads us to this place where our chatbot communication will be mostly done via text, which means that we cannot display nice buttons or list pickers or carousels to our users, but instead we have to always format it nicely in text. That takes us to the place where we have to really carefully design our chatbots and make sure that we can always present the available options in a very clean and concise manner. So that is all theory that I wanted to cover with you for today. And what I want to do now, I want to actually build a chatbot from scratch that will work for SMS, it will work for WhatsApp, and it will work for Viber. So let me just quickly open the NativeChat development portal and I'll be able to show you how this is done. And here we got a NativeChat development environment, and I already have a project that I want to use for creating a chatbot. And the first thing I want to do is go to question answering and create a Q&A type of conversations. So I'll create a category of Q&A. Let's create that category and we'll add our first question. So our user could ask questions like, do you have electric cars? Perfect. So I can maybe call it electric cars. And the answer should be something like, our company is environmentally conscious. All our cars are either electric or hybrid. So I can save this and let's add one more question. And this time we'll ask, what type of cars do you offer? So maybe I can call car types. And I'm just going to paste the answer. So we offer regular, Taxi XL, and VIP cars. So let's save this and we should be able to test our question and answers really quickly. Do you have electric cars? The chatbot responds with the answer we trained it for. And let's try, what type of cars do you offer? And it says we offer regular, Taxi XL, VIP, etc., etc. We can also do a little bit formatting in here already, so I can add a little new line in here. So at the end of each of those lines, I'll add one here and one in here and save this. And this time, when I ask the same question, what type of cars do you offer? We can see all of those being displayed in new messages. Okay, perfect. So we have a working chatbot that can respond to some questions and answers. And it's time for me to show you how to actually transfer it into an SMS type chatbot. So what we need to do is go into publishing. And by default, you are going to see a screen like this because our team has to enable the Twilio connector for you. I already have that enabled for me, so that's all good. And in here, I already have my configuration where I provided the account service ID and authentication token from Twilio. And I have my telephone number. And what I need is this webhook that is provided from NativeChat. And I have to put it into my Twilio configuration. So this is my configuration for SMS chatbot. So I can basically go in here, paste it. And when I save, this is all done, but I already have configured that just before I started this webinar. And now to test it, I'll bring my phone. So this is my actual phone and I'll be sending text messages into my chatbot. Let's start with, do you have electric cars? And the chatbot should respond with, our company is environmentally conscious. All our cars are either electric or hybrid. Okay, what type of cars do you have? And this time, we should see we offer regular, Taxi XL, and VIP. Excellent. So we are on a good way to move forward. And I could very quickly change the same chatbot to also work with WhatsApp. So I am going to enable my WhatsApp number, which is already configured on Twilio with our webhook. And I can press update. And when I come back to my mobile phone, and this is this time WhatsApp with the Twilio channel, I can ask, what type of cars do you have? And the chatbot responds to us via WhatsApp with the answer that we expect it to do. Excellent. So now let's train our chatbot to actually create a step-by-step conversation. So this is going to be a conversation to book a car. So what I will do is go to Cognitive Flow, and we can construct our conversation using JSON, and I'll be using a lot of code snippets to speed up the whole process. So I can start with conversation of type go, and I would say order taxi. So that's basically the conversation I want to have. And just for testing, I can just say step message. So this is going to be like our hello world or hello taxi just for now. And when I save this, I can grab my order taxi. So that's the name of the conversation. Go into training, and I'll be training my chatbot by adding conversation triggers when to trigger this conversation. So I can say something like order taxi, order ride, book a taxi, book a ride. Perfect. So now when I say order taxi, the chatbot should respond with hello taxi. So that's good. So, okay. So we don't need this message step, but what we need is ask the user a couple of questions. So I want to ask a step type question where we will ask the user for address from, and that's going to be text. So we can ask question like, where do you need the taxi from? Cool. And I'll straight away add another question, and this time I'll add address to and also text, and I can say, where are you heading to? Perfect. So for the rest of the testing, I'll be using the web version of WhatsApp. So in here, I can say order taxi, and the chat will ask me where I'm going from. So I'll say home. Okay, and where are you heading to? Well, I'm going to the office. And that's it. That's where it stops because we don't have any more steps. Okay, so next we should probably ask a couple of more questions about when the chatbot should pick us up. So, well, obviously we should have pickup date, and that's going to be a date. So I'll ask something like, when do you need the taxi for? Okay, and another question, and this time is going to be pickup time, and this is going to be time. And the question will be, and at what time? Great. So let's test it one more time. Book a ride. We're going from home to the office. I will say tomorrow at 5 p.m. And that worked. And the cool thing is that with the dates and times, I can also say I want to go in 15 minutes or tomorrow at 5 p.m. or next week Friday. All of those expressions work, and I'll be showing them in the further examples. But what I want to do next is basically show you how we can train the chatbot to understand some of the key entities to extract them out of the things that the users say. So we can do it by training new entities. So the first entity I want to train on is a payment method. So basically I will use a static type because I can type the two types of method I want to accept. So it's going to be cash, or we will accept card, or alternatively we can call it credit. And let's save this. Another entity that I would like to have, and this time I am not going to load it statically, but I'll use my API. So I have this special API service that if I go to taxi service types, we'll get these records like the standard type, taxi XL, and the VIP. So now I can train my chatbot to understand those records. So I can say service type, and we want to train it on dynamic, and the endpoint is my taxi service types. Then the value is going to be the name, and for synonym there was also an alt property. So when I create that, the chatbot should load all the data and now understand that standard, taxi XL, and VIP are properties that are important. So if I go to understanding, so this is where we can test when the chatbot understands what kind of property. So I can say cash VIP today, and you can see that today is a date time, cash is a payment method, and VIP is a service type, which is excellent because chatbot really can understand some of the entities that I'm now sharing. And now I can go back and then create additional steps where the chatbot could ask the user how they want to pay. So let's do a question of that type. So step question, payment method, and the type is payment method that I just created, and say how would you like to pay. And to make it easier to the user, I'm going to add a little display of type quick reply, which will display all the available options to the user, which is really cool. And additionally, I want to add another step of type question, and this time we'll be asking about the service type. So the service type, and again service type, and the question will be what type of service would you like. And this time I'm also going to use display, but I am going to use a carousel, and this is going to get a little bit more interesting because what I want to do is load the data from data source, and the endpoint is going to be like a request that I can make to get quotes. So I'm not only going to display the available services, but I will also provide my chatbot with possible quotes. So if I use this as the endpoint, and what I can do is instead of what I have for from, I can provide address from, and by using that double handlebar, basically I'm telling chatbot to use interpolation to inject that additional record, and then end there's also a to address, and this is going to be address to, and then the chatbot should receive a possible set of records. So now what I have to do is just explain to the chatbot what fields it should be using in a template. So the title is going to be basically this name property, and the subtitle is going to be the quote property. So this way we can display those items to the user. Excellent. We also have button text, so it's basically this is used in case we want to display something in a web version of chatbot or in Viber. So I can say select service, and then we also have a title, so I can say select service one more time, and that should do the trick. So if I save this, we should be able to test our chatbot. So let's try again. Order a taxi. Where should we go from? Okay, home, and we are going to go to Heathrow Airport. Yeah, spelling looks okay. When do we need it? Let's say next Friday at 3 p.m. How would you like to pay? We'll pay by card. And what type of services would we like? Oops, that was a little typo. Okay, I can probably fix that. So the typo was that I should have been using the handlebar in here. Okay, I'll just go back and just say X so that it ignores the response, and you ask one more time. So this time it displays the available values correctly. So we could get standard for $8.39, Taxi XL for $17.91, and VIP for $55. So let's go with VIP. And cool. So the chatbot was able to grab all the necessary bits in order to make the booking. And the final thing that we actually really need to do is basically once we have all the information, we should be able to send it to our backend and save the results and basically dispatch a taxi to our user. So what we can do is use like a step of type webhook where we can provide an endpoint, make a post request, and then send all the information that are required. And I already have it saved in my clipboard, so I can drop it just here. And what's really happening is this is a step of type webhook, like I mentioned before, and we're sending a request to this endpoint. It's a post request, and as a payload, which is the body of my message, I am passing the from to type payment date and time, for which the values are extracted from these fields, so like our address from, address to, service tab, etc., etc. And then when we get the response, that response will get saved into this book response object, and then I can basically reuse that in order to display a message to my user. So I can save this, and we should be able to test it. And to make it more fun, what I will do is I will use this proxy message that we had over here, and this time I will go into the Viber channel. So I should be able to paste this, send that, and this should use the NativeChat, which is like a public channel, and I will explain to you how to connect to it in a second, where now I can start using my chatbot conversation. So book a taxi, let's send this, where are we going from, home, yeah, office, when do you need the taxi for? In 15 minutes. Okay, how would you like to pay? So you can see Viber actually displays a bunch of buttons. So I can say cash, select service. So this is where instead of carousel, I can display a list of available options. So yeah, let's go Taxi XL this time. Select this service. And now the webhook got executed and we have a confirmation for our booking, and the driver will come and pick us up. And yeah, that's basically how you go about building a chatbot that will work with SMS, with Viber and WhatsApp. What's not to like? So just very quickly to recap in terms of what is happening. So we are using Twilio as part of the integration in order to communicate between SMS and NativeChat, and Twilio is just like a middleman in here. So if the user sends a message to the chatbot, that gets sent through Twilio to NativeChat. The NativeChat will process that message and then will respond via Twilio again back to the user, and it's the same kind of like flow for both SMS and WhatsApp, and that's basically how we made it work. And when it comes to Viber, if you want to use the Viber proxy channel that I was showing you earlier, from within Viber you need to add a contact and scan this QR code, and you can find the page with the QR code at this URL whenever you get there. And in case you want to learn more, here are some references and links that would be very useful. So if you want to learn more about NLP or natural language processing, then follow the first link. If you want to go a little bit deeper and learn how to use NLP to make your chatbot understand you better, then I recommend reading also the second article. If you would like to build a chatbot at home, then here are a couple of links, one for a NativeChat tutorial for WhatsApp, another one for SMS. They should be published pretty soon. If not, just come back to the same links tomorrow and they should be live by then. And if you want to use the Viber proxy channel, you should go to this URL and you have all the information in there. So that's all I wanted to show you for today. And I'll pass the microphone over to my colleague, Alexander Hitrov. Alex, over to you.
Thanks, Sebastian. The user experience when communicating using a mobile device is different than the user experience when communicating from a desktop machine or a laptop. On mobile devices, we tend to use channels like Viber, WhatsApp, and SMS more often, while on a desktop we tend to open a website, browse a little, and go to the chatbot icon. The channels themselves offer different UI and UX, and here are several things to consider when building a chatbot that targets SMS, WhatsApp, or Viber. SMS, WhatsApp, and Viber are more text-oriented. While this definitely holds true for SMS, to a lesser extent it also applies to WhatsApp and Viber. The rich conversational UI in the web channel offers quick reply buttons as one-click shortcuts for typing a possible answer. Buttons are not supported in SMS and have only limited support in Viber. So, for SMS, NativeChat will display all quick reply options as a separate message. Carousels or horizontally scrolling lists are widely used in chatbots hosted in web pages and in Facebook Messenger. SMS does not support rich UI in general. WhatsApp does not support carousel in specific, and Viber only offers limited support. So for SMS and WhatsApp, NativeChat will display all carousel items in a separate message, similarly to quick replies, with the difference that some additional information will be included in braces. Messages cost money. This one is specific to SMS. Every single message costs money. It will cost you when your bot sends a message, and it will cost your user when they send a message. How much will a message cost? Depends on several factors like country of origin, country of destination, carrier, etc. For a full reference, you can check the Twilio pricing page. A classic bot will take your answers step by step, incurring cost for you and your user with every single message. In this example, the bot guides the user to give the information needed to book an appointment with Dr. Alcott in a step-by-step manner, costing 4 SMS messages to the user and 3 SMS messages to you. NativeChat, thanks to its slot-filling algorithm, will analyze every message from the user and will extract as much information as possible. So, if the user knows which doctor they want to see, when and at what time, and if this slot is free with the doctor, then they will be able to book an appointment with a single message. As a conclusion, design your bot so that your users can achieve their goal in as few steps as possible. Let your users take shortcuts with the slot filling algorithm. Purchase the right number. If you are publishing your bot to SMS, make sure you buy an SMS-capable number with Twilio. If your bot will ask users to upload files, for example pictures or receipts, you will need an SMS and MMS-capable number. Be aware of opt-out words. With SMS, it is very easy to spam people. For regulatory reasons, Twilio supports automatic opt-out with a set of special words. If your user sends stop, stop all, unsubscribe, cancel, end, or quit, they will be automatically unsubscribed from receiving further messages from your bot. Twilio handles only single-word messages. If the user sends please stop, they will not be unsubscribed, the message will reach your bot and it will answer according to its definition and training. Once unsubscribed, users can resubscribe with start, yes and stop. When the user sends help or info, Twilio will show an informational message as to how they can unsubscribe. Note that help and info will not be sent to your bot. Be aware of opt-out words. Design your bot so that users don't send words from the opt-out list as part of their conversation. Troubleshooting. With every external channel, there is yet one moving part to your bot. Here is a list with the most important checks you should perform when you publish to SMS or WhatsApp. Check number 1. Make sure you have an SMS-capable number. If your bot will ask your users to upload files, make sure you have an SMS and MMS-capable number. You can check the capabilities for your number in the Twilio console. Check number 2. Check your Twilio account. Make sure you have enough credit so that your bot can answer the message from your user. Remember, every single message costs. Check number 3. Ensure the NativeChat Twilio integration is set up correctly. Check your Twilio project. Check the message and debug logs. Check number 4. Ensure that your bot receives the messages from your user. Go to the NativeChat portal and review the messages in the History tab for your bot. Can you see the messages you have sent? If not, there might be an issue with the configuration. Check number 5. The NativeChat Twilio integration is set up correctly and your bot receives all user messages. But can your bot understand the messages it receives? You can test any specific phrase and wording in the Test Understanding console in the NativeChat portal. This is the quickest way to validate chatbot understanding. So, to recapitulate: 1. Buy an SMS or MMS capable number. 2. Make sure your Twilio account is topped up. 3. Make sure the NativeChat Twilio integration is set up correctly. 4. Make sure your bot receives your messages. 5. Make sure your bot understands the messages it receives. That is all from me. Thank you for listening. Now I will pass the mic to Ilian. Over to you, Ilian.
If you're interested in introducing chatbots for your business, then the next 5 minutes will be useful for you. Okay, I would like to talk to you about the NativeChat pilot program that we are working on. The idea is that if you want to introduce a chatbot to your business, you can join our pilot program where our NativeChat engineering team will work with you to help you achieve that. The pilot works in 3 phases. The first phase is a requirements gathering phase. We work with you to figure out the scenarios that are most important for you. Then we will progress to the implementation phase. This is where we will work side by side with you to help you implement the scenarios that we agreed on during the requirements gathering phase. And finally, we will have some meetings which will be dedicated to product feedback and planning next steps. Let's have a look at each of those phases in more details. With the requirements gathering, we will start by trying to figure out what would be the best conversation flow for your scenarios. And we will come up with some sort of a script that will cover this. Then we will take a look at the questions and answers and build a list of those that would work best for you. After that, we investigate different deployment targets. You can deploy your chatbot to an Alexa device or to a web page or use Facebook Messenger. So in here we would figure out which deployment target would work for you given the time frame of the pilot, which is up to 1 month. Then we will come up with the acceptance criteria, which is basically a compilation of your actual business requirements. And all of that will be finalized in a pilot flow agreement document. The next phase is implementation. We will spend a day or 2 to provide you with proper training on how to use NativeChat and how to work with it. Then we will spend about 2 days on pair programming with a dedicated technical expert from your side. We will also spend about half a day working with your subject matter expert on implementing those questions and answers. And finally, we will spend about a day on setting up the deployment that you agreed on. As a result of this phase, you will have a working chatbot ready to use. And when that's done, we will move to the final phase, the sign-off. In that phase, we will hold a meeting with all your stakeholders. We will ask for feedback in terms of how it all went and whether this is something that would work for you and what would be the best way to move forward. Then we would talk about the future of this chatbot. What would it take for you to reach the next stage? And hopefully you'll be a happy user of NativeChat. In terms of next steps, make sure to check the pilot program page if you have a use case in mind and would like to talk to someone from the NativeChat team about your idea. We also have a great free tutorial. You can use this to try out NativeChat. Just head out to progress.com/nativechat/chatbot-tutorial. And with that, let's move to your questions. Give me some time to open the questions tab and read the first question.